The Galactic Council station hung in orbit around a swirling gas giant. Its sleek towers of glass and metal reflected the colors of the planet below: purple storms, green clouds, and streams of golden light. Ships of all shapes and sizes drifted in the station's docking bays, from delicate scout ships to massive freighters. But none were more important than the 5 fleets of the Council's most proud species, all gathered in one place. Inside the Grand Chamber, banners of the 5 alien species hung from the high ceilings. Each represented centuries of achievement, wealth, and military power. Their leaders stood at raised platforms, their forms as different as the colors of space itself. The first was Zelthar, a towering insectoid species with sharp mandibles and glistening exoskeletons. They clicked and hummed as they spoke, their language full of sounds humans could barely perceive. Next was the Lysari, amphibious beings with smooth blue skin and large eyes that reflected light like tiny mirrors. Then came the Grunth, massive quadrupeds with armor-like hides and claws designed for tearing through metal. The fourth were the Sylph, bird-like creatures with iridescent feathers and delicate wings that shimmered in the chamber's light. And finally, there were the Kavar, sleek, snake-like aliens whose scales changed color with emotion, making them difficult to read. Humans, in comparison, were few in number. Captain Myra Lane and her crew of 4 were dressed in standard council uniforms. Their ship, the Intrepid, waited in the nearby docking bay, almost invisible among the massive alien fleets. Most of the alien leaders barely noticed them, dismissing humans as primitive explorers. The council meeting began with formal greetings, and the 5 alien leaders quickly moved into their favorite topic: boasting. "Our fleet is unmatched," Zelthar clicked proudly, raising multiple appendages in a display that humans guessed was equivalent to a bow. "We have 300 warships, each capable of destroying a planet's defense grid in minutes. No other species can match our strength." The Lysari laughed softly, their voices like water flowing over stones. "Quantity means little if your ships are slow. Our vessels are faster than any known craft. We can strike before our enemies even detect us. Speed and precision are the true measures of power." The Grunth bellowed, shaking the platform beneath them. "You all speak of speed and size. Strength is the only truth. Our armor can withstand any attack, and our firepower is unmatched. Any who face us are crushed before they can even react." The Sylph cooed elegantly. "Strength and numbers are primitive notions. Our intelligence and coordination allow us to outthink any opponent. We can achieve victory without risking half our fleet in a single battle. Strategy is what makes a fleet strong." Finally, the Kavar hissed, their scales shifting from silver to deep crimson. "You all fail to see the bigger picture. Our stealth and adaptability make us unstoppable. Fleets rely on routine. We strike where no one expects, and no fleet can prepare for us. You will not see us coming until it is too late." Captain Lane and her crew listened quietly, exchanging subtle glances. Theo Hart, the ship's engineer, whispered under his breath, "They really like to hear themselves talk, don't they?" Lane smiled. "Yes, and they think we're irrelevant. Perfect." The council continued, each species trying to prove superiority over the others. Their language was filled with technical terms, statistics, and colorful boasts. They spoke of hypothetical battles and victories, of weapons so powerful that entire moons could be vaporized. Humans, by contrast, had very little to contribute. Their ship was small, only a fraction of the size of even the smallest alien vessel. They had no giant fleets, no overwhelming weapons, and no history of conquering other species. That was why the aliens ignored them. But Captain Lane had something the aliens did not expect: a mind that was curious, observant, and patient. She noticed patterns in the alien boasting, the way they measured power, the weaknesses they ignored, and the pride that made them blind. She whispered to her second-in-command, "They are so focused on size, speed, and strength." They never consider creativity, adaptability, or efficiency. Theo leaned closer. Are you saying our little ship can? Lane nodded. We'll show them, but not yet. Let them talk themselves into arrogance. That's half the battle. As the meeting continued, a minor argument broke out between the Zelthar and the Grunth. Both insisted their fleet could obliterate the other in a straight fight. The Lysari and Sylph tried to mediate, pointing out flaws in the reasoning. The Kavar stayed silent, watching, their eyes flickering with colors that humans could barely interpret. Finally, the council leader, a neutral arbiter chosen from an ancient, non-aligned species, called for a break. Delegates filed out into the observation galleries, sipping glowing liquids and discussing fleet designs. Humans moved toward the balcony overlooking the gas giant below. Theo pointed at the swirling clouds. It's beautiful, but I can't stop thinking about how big their fleets are. One human ship wouldn't stand a chance in a fight. Lane shook her head. You're thinking like them, that's the mistake. They rely on numbers, we rely on ideas, on engineering, on teamwork. On using our strengths where it counts. A soft chime from her communicator interrupted her. It was a message from the Intrepid. The ship's AI, named Argo, reported, Captain, fleet analysis complete. Alien fleets detected, 5 primary forces. Combined estimated ships, over 15,000. Threat level, low to moderate, assuming they remain focused on boasting. Lane chuckled. Exactly, low threat as long as we don't play their game. The humans watched as the aliens mingled, still trying to outshine one another. The Grunth demonstrated the strength of their new plasma cannons on a holographic simulator. The Sylph showcased a fleet maneuver that could encircle and trap enemy ships without firing a shot. The Kavar showed a stealth approach that left everyone in awe. None of them noticed the humans quietly taking mental notes, observing every technique, every flaw. Lane and her team saw possibilities, ways to combine efficiency, speed, and adaptability into a single, elegant design. As the break ended, the council reconvened. The aliens were now tired but still prideful. They continued to argue, but their voices carried a hint of impatience, a subtle undercurrent of concern. They could feel something unusual, though they did not know what. Lane's communicator buzzed again. Argo's voice was calm. Captain, initiating preliminary hyperspace coordinates for demonstration. Recommendation, proceed when ready. Estimated impact on alien perceptions, significant. Lane's eyes sparkled. That's what I was waiting for. She turned to Theo and the rest of the crew. Time to show them what humans can really do, quietly, efficiently, and without saying a single boast. The aliens had spent the entire morning claiming they were the strongest, the fastest, the smartest. They did not see humans as a threat. And that, Lane thought, would be their biggest mistake. In the docking bay, the Intrepid glimmered under the station lights. Its surface was smooth and streamlined, not the clunky, overarmed design of the alien fleets. Its engines were quiet but powerful, designed for efficiency rather than spectacle. Inside, every system was coordinated by Argo, the AI, capable of adjusting tactics faster than any alien mind could comprehend. Lane and her crew prepared for the demonstration. It would not be about firepower. It would not be about sheer numbers. It would be about precision, adaptability, and strategy, the things humans excelled at even in a single ship. Theo adjusted the energy output of the ship's thrusters, checking the shielding systems. Captain, all systems are green. Ready when you are, Lane nodded. Good. Let's give them a show they will never forget, not with weapons but with brilliance. And so, as the council resumed, the humans quietly moved toward the outer docking bay. The alien leaders continued to argue and boast, completely unaware that the small human ship would soon challenge everything they believed about power and strategy in the galaxy. High above the gas giant, the Intrepid waited, silent, gleaming and ready to change the way 5 alien species, and perhaps the entire galaxy, viewed humanity forever. The council chamber buzzed with conversation as the break ended. Alien leaders returned to their platforms, still proud, still boastful, still convinced that no species could match their fleets. Humans quietly followed, moving with calm confidence. Captain Myra Lane gave a subtle nod to her crew. "Time," she said. Theo Hart activated the Intrepid's docking thrusters. The ship glided smoothly out of its bay, its silver hull reflecting the colors of the gas giant below. It was not massive like the alien ships, nor heavily armed. Yet its design was elegant, efficient, and unlike anything the Council had ever seen. The aliens noticed, first a few murmurs, then disbelief. The Grunth's massive claws drummed against their platform. "What is that?" they bellowed. Zelthar clicked rapidly, their many eyes narrowing. It is a human ship," they said, their tone carrying both curiosity and skepticism. The Lysari tilted their heads, the water-like reflections in their eyes flickering. "It is small, too small to matter." "Perhaps a scout ship," Lane smiled faintly. "Let's see how they react," she whispered to Theo. The Intrepid moved into orbit above the gas giant, performing a slow, graceful roll. Its engines left no visible trail, and the hull shimmered faintly with energy shields. The humans had designed the ship not to intimidate with size or noise, but to show precision, adaptability, and intelligence. The Sylph cooed in admiration. "It is beautiful," they said softly. "Look at its lines, look at the symmetry." The Kavar hissed, their scales flickering crimson. "That ship is unusual, too calculated, too refined. I do not understand it yet." Lane gave the command. "Argo, initiate demonstration." Instantly, the ship's AI came alive. Lights along the hull pulsed in synchronization, energy systems shifting in harmony. The Intrepid began a series of maneuvers that seemed impossible for a single vessel, rolling, twisting, and accelerating, all while remaining perfectly stable. The aliens gasped. The Grunth growled. "It moves like it thinks," Theo grinned. "It does, faster than you can blink actually." The Zelthar clicked in confusion. "5 humans control that," Lane shook her head. One mind guiding the ship's AI." The Council watched in silence as the Intrepid performed a display of strategy and precision. It wasn't firing weapons, it wasn't breaking anything, yet its movements suggested power beyond the physical. The ship seemed to anticipate imaginary opponents, evading them before they could act. It showed adaptability, flexibility, and confidence. The Lysari whispered, "It is predicting movements, adapting to threats we cannot see. Incredible." Even the boastful Sylph, known for their pride and intelligence, tilted their heads. "It is thinking faster than our entire fleet." Lane smiled faintly. "Exactly. That is what humans do best. We do not rely on numbers alone. We rely on ideas, on efficiency, on learning and adapting." The Kavar, still silent, hissed softly. Their scales shifted rapidly from silver to deep purple. "It understands threats before they exist. This is dangerous." Argo projected a holographic simulation for the aliens. It showed multiple enemy fleet formations approaching a planet. The Intrepid performed maneuvers that blocked all hypothetical attacks without firing a single shot. Ships that were larger, faster, or more heavily armed would have struggled. The simulation ended with the Intrepid perfectly positioned, undamaged, and ready for any situation. The Council was silent. Their previous arguments about strength, speed, and numbers seemed suddenly irrelevant. They had underestimated humans. Theo whispered to Lane, "Captain, they're actually impressed." Lane nodded. "Yes, but watch closely. They're still trying to convince themselves it's luck." To further impress, Lane ordered a demonstration of multitasking. The Intrepid deployed small, autonomous drones that zipped around the chamber, mapping every ship in orbit and transmitting real-time data back to Argo. Each drone acted independently, yet as a single coordinated unit. The aliens watched as the ship's AI calculated optimal maneuvers, not only for itself but for the drones. The Zelthar's antennae twitched. It coordinates multiple units simultaneously without errors. The Grunth grunted in disbelief. One ship controlling so many. Impossible, Lane raised an eyebrow. Not impossible, just human. Even the Lysari were speechless. We have never seen such integration, they admitted. Such efficiency. The Sylph, the species that prize strategy above all, finally spoke, their voice tinged with respect. Humans, you have created a system that thinks faster than 5 of our fleets combined. We misjudged you. The Kavar remained quiet, but their color shifted to a deep, contemplative green. They were clearly analyzing, reconsidering, and adapting, just as the humans predicted they might. Lane knew the moment was right. Argo, initiate final demonstration. The Intrepid performed a series of simulated defensive and offensive maneuvers. It moved so smoothly that it appeared almost alive. Every turn was precise, every movement intentional. And yet there was no aggression. No lasers, no explosions, only flawless performance. The Council, who had come to boast about their power, could only watch. Their faces, their scales, their feathers, all showed astonishment, wonder, and perhaps a little fear. Zelthar clicked rapidly. We underestimated them. Entirely. The Grunth nodded, though grudgingly. This ship, it is unlike anything we have faced. One vessel could outmaneuver our entire fleet. Lane stepped forward on the observation deck, her voice calm but confident. You have all spoken about your fleets, your speed, your strength, and all of it is impressive, but human innovation is different. We do not rely on overwhelming numbers. We do not rely on brute strength alone. We rely on intelligence, teamwork, and adaptability. That is why a single ship can do what thousands cannot. A hush fell over the council chamber. For the first time, none of the alien leaders tried to boast. Their pride, once loud and unyielding, was replaced by curiosity and cautious respect. The Lysari finally spoke, their tone gentle. We thought you were small, weak, insignificant. We misjudged you," Lane smiled. "That is understandable. Most species do, but we are humans, and we have always found ways to succeed even when the odds are against us." The Kavar's scales flickered one last time before settling into a calm silver. "Your methods are unorthodox, but effective." "Highly effective," the Sylph nodded. "Your ship's movements, the coordination, the efficiency, it is remarkable." Even the Grunth, who preferred brute strength and direct confrontation, admitted quietly, "One human ship could indeed challenge our fleet." Lane turned to Theo, who whispered, "Captain, they're finally listening." "Good," she replied. "Now we start building respect, not fear." The aliens, though still prideful, began asking questions. How did humans achieve such efficiency? How did a single ship operate like a fleet? How did Argo manage so many calculations simultaneously? Lane and her team explained carefully, without revealing secrets that could compromise their advantage, yet enough to earn admiration. The council session ended with a new atmosphere. Boasting had turned into cautious respect. The aliens had realized that humans were not weak, and that intelligence, creativity, and teamwork could surpass even the most massive fleets. As the humans returned to their ship, Lane looked out at the massive alien vessels. "They will think twice before underestimating us again," she said. Theo smiled. "I never thought our little ship would make them so quiet." Lane laughed softly. "Not just quiet, awed, and that is the start of something greater." The Intrepid returned to the docking bay, silent but victorious. Not through firepower, not through numbers, but through brilliance. Humans had shown the galaxy that true power was not always measured in size or weapons. It was measured in intelligence, strategy, and the courage to innovate. Above the gas giant, the 5 alien fleets hovered, their leaders whispering among themselves. Each was reevaluating everything they thought they knew about humans, and somewhere deep in the council, all 5 species began to wonder, could humanity be the next great power in the galaxy? And for the first time, humans were no longer just observers. They had earned attention, respect, and perhaps the beginning of influence that could change the balance of the stars forever. The council chamber was quieter than usual. The once boastful leaders of the 5 alien species were still recovering from the demonstration of the Intrepid. Even now, hours later, whispers of admiration and disbelief filled the room. Humans had shown that a single ship, intelligently designed and expertly piloted, could outperform fleets hundreds of times its size. Captain Myra Lane and her crew returned to the observation gallery. Lane leaned against the railing, watching the alien leaders talk among themselves. "They're still trying to figure it out," she said softly. Theo Hart, the engineer, crossed his arms. "I think some of them will never admit it. Pride is a strong thing." Lane smiled. "True. But respect is stronger when it's earned, and we've earned it." The council leader, an ancient neutral species known as the Orca, called the meeting back to order. "Delegates," the Orca began, their voice calm and deep, "we have witnessed unusual capabilities today. The human delegation has demonstrated a level of efficiency and strategy that cannot be ignored. I invite them to explain their methods for the benefit of all." The aliens stiffened. Some looked hesitant. The Grunth growled softly, as if warning the humans not to overstep. But Lane stepped forward with confidence. "Thank you," she said. "We do not wish to boast. Our philosophy is simple. Efficiency, coordination, and adaptability allow a small number of humans, or even a single ship, to achieve what larger fleets cannot. We design our systems to anticipate problems, to learn from experience, and to respond quickly to changing situations." A Lysari delegate raised a fin. "How do you manage so many operations at once? Your ship's performance, it seemed impossible." Lane gestured toward Argo, the ship's AI, which was projecting a small holographic display above her hand. "Our AI assists in decision-making, but it does not act alone. Every system on our ship communicates in coordinates. Drones, shields, engines, sensors, they work together as a single unit. This allows a single human pilot to manage an entire network of operations efficiently." The Sylph, whose feathers glimmered in the soft light, tilted their head. "Your methods, they are very different from ours. We rely on strategy, but usually across many ships. You rely on technology and intelligence combined." "Exactly," Lane said. "It is not just technology, it is teamwork. Humans are trained to cooperate, adapt, and learn quickly. Even one human can manage situations that would require dozens of other species, and our ships are designed to maximize those abilities." The Kavar's scales flickered from silver to deep blue as they listened intently. "You have created a system that can think faster than any fleet we have ever deployed. It is efficient, too efficient." Thea added, "It's about preparation and observation. We watch, we learn, and we plan. We do not rely on overwhelming force. We rely on anticipating what will happen next." The Zelthar, still proud but subdued, clicked in curiosity. "Your confidence is impressive, but can it be replicated on a larger scale? One ship is remarkable, yes, but one fleet," Lane smiled. "We have designs for larger operations, but the principle remains the same. We maximize efficiency and intelligence, not just numbers, and we train our teams to think creatively, to solve problems as they arise." For the first time, the alien leaders were genuinely listening. Their whispers of doubt had transformed into questions. Their questions had transformed into fascination. The council decided to allow a demonstration of the human approach on a larger scale. Lane agreed, but instead of showing raw power, she showed coordination. Multiple Intrepid-class ships, though smaller than alien warships, worked in perfect harmony. Drones and satellites moved in unison, sensors and shields adjusted automatically, and communication systems ensured every action was perfectly timed. The Grunth, usually so proud of brute strength, was the first to speak. "I do not understand it fully, yet I see efficiency, coordination, intelligence. One ship could outmaneuver 5 of ours combined. The Sylph nodded slowly. Strategy alone cannot explain it. It is precision, coordination, and creativity together. We have much to learn. Lane remained calm. We do not wish to dominate, we wish to collaborate. By sharing ideas and learning from each other, we can face challenges that none of us could overcome alone. The aliens were silent for a moment. Then the Lysari spoke. Your humility is surprising. Most species that achieve such abilities would flaunt them. Yet you demonstrate capability without arrogance. It is admirable, Lane smiled faintly. We prefer action to words. Results speak louder than boasting. The council discussion shifted. Instead of bragging about who could destroy whom, delegates began asking questions about design, training, and coordination. The humans explained how their ships could adapt to unforeseen circumstances, how AI and human intuition could work together, and how small teams could manage vast operations. The Kavar, still cautious, admitted, "Your methods are unconventional, but they are effective." Highly effective, perhaps humans could advise our fleets. The Grunth, who had always relied on sheer power, finally conceded. Strength alone is not enough. Coordination and planning, they matter more than I realized. Even the Zelthar and Sylph, who prided themselves on speed and intelligence, nodded. They were forced to rethink their assumptions. Humans had proven that creativity, efficiency, and teamwork could surpass even the mightiest fleets. Lane knew the moment was crucial. Respect is earned through action, she said. Humans have always succeeded not because we are the largest or the strongest, but because we learn, adapt, and think differently. That is what we bring to the galaxy. A quiet murmur of agreement spread among the alien leaders. They were no longer debating who was the strongest. They were debating how humans had done what seemed impossible. The Orica, observing the discussion, finally spoke. Humans, you have demonstrated a new way of thinking about power and strategy. Your methods are revolutionary. We recommend continued collaboration and study. You have earned the Council's attention and respect. Lane nodded. Thank you. We hope to work together to make the galaxy safer and more connected. We do not seek to dominate. We seek to contribute, to share ideas, and to help all species succeed. The aliens exchanged glances. Some were cautious, others curious, but all were aware of a truth they could not ignore. Humans were unlike any species they had encountered. A single human ship had challenged their assumptions, their pride, and their understanding of power. Later, in a private discussion among the alien leaders, the Zelthar admitted quietly, "We underestimated them. Their fleets are small, yes, but their minds are a force of their own," the Lysari agreed. "They think differently, faster, smarter, and they are adaptable. Perhaps we could learn from them." The Grunth growled softly, "I still prefer strength. But I cannot deny humans have changed the way I see power." The Sylph nodded. "Strategy without flexibility is useless. Humans have flexibility in abundance. We must respect that." The Kavar's scales shifted to a calm silver. "We may have misjudged humans as simple explorers. But they are something else entirely. Unpredictable, clever, and capable. That is a rare combination in the galaxy." Back on the observation deck, Lane and her crew watched the discussions from afar. "We've made an impression," Theo said. Lane smiled. "More than that. We've earned respect, and respect lasts longer than fear or intimidation." Argo, the ship's AI, added in its calm voice, "Captain, analysis of alien perception indicates a shift from skepticism to respect. Probability of future collaboration has increased significantly." Lane nodded. "Good, that is the first step. Humans do not need to dominate with weapons. We dominate with ideas, with intelligence, and with teamwork. That is our true strength." As the council session ended, humans were no longer just observers. They had become participants, advisors, and perhaps even a quiet guiding influence. The alien leaders, once boastful and dismissive, now looked at humanity with curiosity and cautious admiration. The Intrepid returned to its docking bay, and Lane reflected on the day's events. We've shown them what humans can do without aggression. We've shown them respect and earned it in return. That is the real victory. Theo looked out at the alien fleet still hovering in orbit. Do you think they'll ever underestimate us again? Lane shook her head. Not today. Not ever. We've changed their perception, and that is more powerful than any weapon in the galaxy. The stars outside the station seemed brighter, almost as if the universe itself acknowledged the rise of a new kind of power. One built not on sheer size or strength, but on ingenuity, adaptability, and courage, the kind of power that only humans could wield. And somewhere deep in the hearts of the 5 alien species, a new realization took root. Humans were extraordinary. Extraordinary enough to change the galaxy. The council chamber glowed softly under the ambient lights of the space station. The 5 alien species, Zelthar, Lysari, Grunth, Sylph, and Kavar, had gathered once more, but this time the atmosphere was very different. Gone were the loud boasts and heated arguments. In their place was a calm, reflective energy. The humans had changed the council forever. Captain Myra Lane and her crew observed from the gallery, noting every detail. Today was not about demonstration, it was about collaboration. Today, humans would move from being observers to respected participants. The Orica, the neutral council leader, addressed the assembly. Delegates, we have witnessed the ingenuity of humanity. Their single ship has shown capabilities that no fleet of ours has fully matched. We must reconsider how we approach cooperation, strategy, and exploration. The humans have offered a new perspective, one that may benefit all of us. The aliens murmured among themselves. Even the proud Grunth lowered their massive heads in acknowledgement, and the Zelthar's clicking sounded thoughtful rather than sharp. The Kavar's scales glimmered calm silver, and the Sylph's feathers reflected curiosity instead of pride. Lane stepped forward. "We do not seek to lead or dominate," she said, her voice steady and clear. "Humans wish to share knowledge, ideas, and strategies. We believe that when species work together, they achieve far more than they ever could alone. That is how we face challenges in the galaxy, not through force, but through cooperation and creativity." A Lysari delegate raised a fin. "Your philosophy is different, yet your results are undeniable. If we combine your strategies with our fleets, perhaps we can prevent mistakes we have made in the past." Lane nodded. "Exactly. The galaxy is full of surprises. No one species can predict everything. But if we share knowledge, we can prepare for challenges, explore more safely, and solve problems faster." The Sylph fluffed their iridescent feathers. "Humans, you have changed how we think. We often relied on numbers and strength alone. Your methods prove that coordination and intelligence can surpass raw power. We wish to learn from you." Even the Grunth spoke quietly, their voice low but firm. "We have been proud of strength and size, but humans show us there is more to power than force. Perhaps we were too focused on might. Perhaps there is value in your way." The Kavar's eyes flickered in soft patterns. "Humans are unpredictable, but in a good way. They think differently, react differently, and solve problems differently. That perspective is valuable. We would benefit from cooperation." Lane smiled. This was the moment she had hoped for. Humans were no longer simply observers. They were advisors, collaborators, and respected contributors. The alien fleets had finally recognized human ingenuity as a form of power, one that complemented their own strengths. After the council session, Lane and her team were invited to a private strategy chamber with representatives from all 5 species. Holographic maps of distant star systems floated in the air, showing planets, wormholes, and trade routes. The aliens asked the humans to analyze potential routes for exploration, resource collection, and defense. Theo Hart stepped forward, excitement in his voice. "We can coordinate smaller ships to scout multiple systems at once. Drones and AI can handle calculations faster than any fleet's command center. We can maximize efficiency, reduce risk, and gather more data than you could with conventional fleets. The Lysari's eyes widened. Incredible, this could save years of travel and prevent countless mistakes, Lane added. And it's not just about speed. We can observe, learn, and adapt. We can find solutions before problems arise, using data and experience. A fleet alone cannot do this. It requires intelligence, cooperation, and planning. The Zelthar clicked thoughtfully. We underestimated the value of a single human mind. Perhaps it is time to reconsider our fleet structures and strategies. The Sylph nodded. We can combine your ideas with our coordination. Imagine fleets that not only move fast but also think and adapt like a single organism. Humans may have shown us the next step in evolution for strategy. The council members discussed long into the galactic day. Humans guided the conversation, offering insights without asserting dominance. Lane emphasized collaboration, innovation, and learning over conquest. By the time the session ended, a new plan had formed. Joint exploration missions, shared knowledge networks, and advisory councils where humans would participate actively. Later, as Lane and her team returned to the observation deck, she reflected on how far things had come. We've shown them what humans can do, not with weapons but with thought. Respect is far more enduring than fear. Theo nodded. Do you think they'll ever forget this? Lane shook her head. No, today humans have earned a place in the galaxy. Not because we're the strongest, but because we think, adapt, and inspire. Outside the station, the alien fleets lingered near the gas giant, their ships reflecting off the swirling clouds below. The once boastful leaders were now thoughtful and reflective. They had seen that power was not just physical, it was mental, creative, and collaborative. In private conversations, the Zelthar acknowledged to the others, humans are not the species we thought they were. They are remarkable. The Grunth admitted softly, perhaps strength is not the only path to respect. Humans may teach us more than we expect. The Lysari mused, they are humble yet capable. They inspire rather than intimidate. The Sylph added, they have changed how we approach strategy and thinking. Humans are extraordinary. And the Kavar finally said, unpredictable yet brilliant. Humans are a new kind of power in the galaxy. We would do well to learn from them. Back on the observation deck, Lane smiled as she watched the alien fleets move in silent formation. They understand now, she said. Humans don't need to fight to be respected. We only need to think, act, and cooperate. Theo leaned over. Do you think they'll ever underestimate us again? Lane laughed softly. Not today. Not ever. Humans have proven themselves in a way that can never be ignored. We've shown the galaxy that intelligence, creativity, and teamwork are just as powerful as fleets of warships. Argo, the ship's AI, chimed softly. Captain, analysis indicates that all 5 species now view humans as equals in strategic capability. Probability of future collaboration is at an all-time high. Lane nodded. Good. That is the start of something greater. Humans have never sought dominance through force. We lead with ideas, and ideas last longer than fear. The council reconvened for a final discussion. Lane addressed the delegates one last time. Our hope is simple. Let us work together to explore, to learn, and to create solutions for challenges we cannot face alone. The galaxy is vast, and there is much to discover. Together, we can achieve more than any one species ever could. The aliens, for the first time, were not boasting. They listened, asked questions, and shared their own experiences. It was a council of equals, not competitors. And in that moment, humanity's place in the galaxy had shifted from curiosity to influence. As the session ended, Lane and her crew returned to the Intrepid. The ship gleamed in the docking bay, quiet and efficient. It had done more than demonstrate power. It had inspired respect, curiosity, and collaboration. The galaxy now saw humans not as small, weak explorers, but as innovators, problem solvers, and partners. Lane gazed at the stars beyond the station. Humans have never needed to dominate, she said softly. We lead by thinking, by creating, and by showing that respect is earned through action, not force. Today, we've done that. Theo smiled. It feels incredible. We've really changed how the galaxy sees us. Lane nodded. Yes, and this is only the beginning. Humans will continue to surprise, to inspire, and to collaborate. That is our true power. The alien fleets lingered above the gas giant, now silent and contemplative. Somewhere deep in the hearts of their leaders, a new respect had grown for humans, a respect that would guide decisions, strategy, and cooperation for years to come. For the first time, humanity was no longer just an observer of the galaxy. They were a participant, a teacher, a collaborator, and perhaps even a quiet force for change. And somewhere among the stars, the knowledge spread. Humans were extraordinary. Not because they fought or conquered or destroyed, but because they thought differently, adapted faster, and inspired others through brilliance, courage, and cooperation. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a new kind of power. A power built not on fleets or weapons, but on human ingenuity. And the stars seemed to shine a little brighter for it.